All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. One of my colleagues will be joining us shortly, but I can certainly get us started. So thank you for attending today. We're going to, as you may know, there are four different internship programs that CGIS offers in the summertime, and we are going to kind of do a general overview of all of the internship programs, and we'll do a little bit in depth of each one as well. Um, so, so the kind of overview of all of our internship programs are that we have four different internship organizations that we partner with. These are what we call a partner or a provider. And so what that means is that we contract with these organizations to help students find an internship. So you wouldn't be interning with this exact organization. There's CIE, IES, et cetera. Instead, you would be working with that organization and they would help place you into an internship. So let me add my colleague. So we'll go through each of those different internship organizations here in just a moment. But there is a link here that takes you to a spreadsheet that it can be a little hard to read, but if you are narrowing it down between what career field that you're in, your major or what you're hoping to one day find a job in, and then you scroll over, you can see which of the different internship organizations offer that internships in that career field and which location specifically. So if you're an international relations major, you can see that you could do CIE China, Estonia, Japan, but you could also come over here to IES and do one of their locations. Unfortunately, it does not seem that SageCore or Amprakash um, offer those that particular career field. So this is a really helpful resource, and I should mention that these slides will be shared. I'll email them out to all of you at the end, so you'll have access to this link as well. Just didn't mean to do that. So the application deadline for all of the internship programs is February 1st. There is an extended deadline only for the SageCore program until March 1st, but we strongly encourage you to get your application in by February 1st. It will definitely give you the best chance at finding, an internship in the field that you are looking for. All of the internships are 8 weeks or more. Most of them are about 8. There's a couple that are slightly over 8, maybe 8.5, 9 weeks. They are all unpaid. The reasoning for this is that we are an academic unit, and so we provide academic credit for these experiences rather than having them be paid. The majority of them take place in the spring term, but there are a few that are available for the summer term as well. Students will intern approximately 20 to 40 hours per week, and that number really depends on the organization that you end up interning with. It's sort of at their discretion of how many hours it is. The placement will be in English, regardless of what the language that is spoken in the country is. If doing an internship in the local language is something that you're interested in, that is a possibility in some locations, but that is something that you would definitely want to check with the partner about ahead of time as you're applying. So on top of the internship experience itself, the day-to-day in the office type of experience, students will take an internship seminar, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in a few minutes, but you're earning either 3 or 6 credits for that seminar. And so that is sort of the academic component of this experience. And these are in-residence credits. They are for a grade, and so they will factor back into your GPA overall. There is a program fee associated with each of the internship programs, and those include the tuition that you will need for the 3 or the 6 credits. In most cases, it also includes housing as well as on-site support. So the first one we have is with CIEE. It is one of a number of organizations that's sort of what we like an alphabet soup. So you have to prepare yourself for a lot of acronyms. But CIE has 17 different locations. You can see them all there at the top of the slide, really throughout the world, I think everywhere except for Africa, there are CIE locations. A lot of these are new. We offered them in only in Asia last year, but we've since expanded to Europe, Latin America, and New Zealand as well. So in order to, you'll hear this a lot on all four of these providers. In order to apply, you have to apply both on mCompass, which is Michigan's, study abroad, intern abroad application portal. And then you also need to apply on the provider's website. So in this case, CIE. Um, CIE strength is that they really say that they can find you an internship in almost any career field. And so again, if you go back to that chart that I showed you previously, look for your career field or something that you're interested in. And as long as there is an X below the location that you're interested in applying in, CIE can get you an internship in that field. And so we'll go over how the placement process works a little bit in a few minutes, but know that this is a very multidisciplinary program. So some examples from last year are we had a data analysis intern in Seoul. We had a psychology major doing psychology and well-being in Copenhagen, and then sustainability in Tokyo. CIE only offers 6 credits, so there is no 3 credit option for CIE. You must take the full 6 credits. And all students will participate in the internship seminar, which we talked about a little bit. So the next one is SageCore. SageCore is in Amsterdam, Barcelona, a lot of major European cities, but it is also in Sydney, Australia, and Taipei, Taiwan. As with the others, you must apply on mCompass and the SageCore website. SageCore's specialty is that they work exclusively with startups and also a lot of like technology type of fields. So the benefit of course, working in a startup is that, you're not one of 300 other interns or even 300 other employees. It's often a very small company. You have the opportunity to work, right alongside a CEO or a CTO and, really work on real world day-to-day problems that these individuals face. So it does give you an opportunity to really get thrown right into the workforce. Some specializations we've seen are analytics, marketing, graphic design. Again, similarly, last year, some placements that we had was a student working on Race Mapper and a intern for the predictive company in Barcelona. So SageCore offers 3 credits or 6 credits. So everyone will take that seminar, and then they will also enroll in SageCore's online skill academy, which helps you bolster your resume, your cover letter, and sort of to talk about your internship in a career sense once you get back from your internship and start applying to full-time jobs. Ben, do you want to talk about Amprakash since you're here?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I joined a bit late. My name's Ben. I'm one of the CGIS advisors. I advise for the internships through Amprakash. And so these Amprakash internships are a little bit different than some of the other ones that Rachel has been talking about. So if you're interested in doing an internship at a company like NVIDIA or Google, this Amprakash is not the place for this. They do more work with local organizations that social impact and grassroots organizations in countries. They focus on education, human rights, and sustainability, things like that. So just as an example, last summer we had students in Nepal who worked in Kathmandu at an organization called Sasane that works with female survivors of human trafficking and marginalized communities, helping them with education and earning a livelihood, things like that. So these types of internships are all about, social impact instead of working for a business or a company. So Amprakash has they have many internships that they offer, but for Michigan, they have 20 plus pre-selected ones in Asia, Africa, and South America. And there's some examples down there, just three examples that you can check out. So in Malawi, Uganda, and Nepal. And like Rachel said, you can do 3 or 6 internship credits. And Amprakash does have what they call the Edge program, which is an online program that you do. It's separate from the day-to-day of the internship. It's basically like the internship seminar that you would do all online. Amprakash is also a little bit different because if you're interested, you will, meet with Amprakash and they'll ask you to apply to 3 or more specific internships that they offer. And then you will have to have an interview with, let's say you're applying to the one I just mentioned in Nepal. You would have to have an an interview with that internship provider in Nepal. So you would have to set up the interview and do the interview. And they encourage you to apply for 3+ internships, just in case you don't get one. You have the opportunity to maybe get another one, but you do have to do an interview with the actual internship provider in the country. And also, they're having some info sessions coming up. Um, there's, I'll send you the link here. Let's see. I just sent everybody the link. If you're interested, they are having some info sessions. I forgot to include the one on December 3rd, but in that link I just sent to you, there's one coming up on December the 3rd, and then they're having 2 more, one in January 2026. So if you are interested in Prakash, please, check out those info sessions. And you can also look at their landing page. There's a link there. They have a lot of info about what their internships are about and how to connect with Amprakash. If you have any questions about Amprakash, you can also, of course, email me as well.
But thank you so much, Ben. And then we have one more. And so this last one is with IES Abroad. This one is very similar to the first one we talked about, CIEE. They're similar in that they have a multitude of locations, mostly throughout Europe as well as Australia, but they do have a location in Cape Town, South Africa, and in Santiago, Chile, and Rabat, Morocco. And these are also very multidisciplinary. So as I mentioned, you go to that career spreadsheet, if you find your career field and the location has an X next to it. One of the benefits of IES is that they will guarantee you a placement in the field of your choice. So once you sign up, you are guaranteed to end up finding an internship for that summer. So that's a really great guarantee. Some examples are listed below. We had a student doing working with a home care company in Australia. They weren't actually doing medical care, but they were sort of a part of the greater administrative process of the company. We had a student who had the opportunity to work in a parliamentary office in London. So there's a lot of really great options out there. And then similar to all the others, there is the internship seminar, and you can enroll in either 3 or 6 credits. So on some important things to remember, this really mostly will only apply to CIEE, but CIE offers like 40 different internship locations. However, only the ones that were listed on the previous slide and that are listed on our mCompass brochure page are ones that you can apply to through U of M. So if you want to get the in-residence credit, you need to apply to a location that is listed there. The other thing to note is that SageCore, as well as I think CIE, offer remote or virtual internships, but based on U of M requirements, students cannot participate in those through CGIS in order to get credit. So just know that you will have to be on site in the location in order to get credit. Some internships are hybrid, I will say, though. So you may be in the office twice a week and you may be able to work remotely twice a week, but you will need to be, in Barcelona or wherever the internship takes place. So the internship placement, Ben sort of just went over how the Amprakash model works. And so for Amprakash, as a quick summary, you will take a look at those pre-selected internships. You'll find three or more that interest you, and you will submit your resume, submit your cover letter. The company will contact you if they're interested in hiring you, and you'll set up an interview with them. And then Amprakash is there to answer any questions that you have, but really Amprakash is a much more independent option. And so you do need to be prepared to sort of take on that role of, submitting cover letters, organizing the internship, and moving from there. The other three programs, SageCore, IS, and CIE are a little different. In most cases, how it works is once you're accepted, you'll meet with a career coach from, let's say, we'll use CIE as an example, from CIE, and they will walk through your resume with you, your cover letter, talk about what your goals are for the internship, what your career goals are, and what you're really looking to do while you're interning abroad. And then after that meeting, the career coach will take that information back and they'll look through their network of internship organizations that they've worked with or that they have connections with. And they'll come back to you and they'll say, we think that these one or maybe two internship opportunities would be a really good fit for you. Of course, you have a say in that as well. And then if you are interested in moving forward, sometimes an interview may be required with the internship organization, sometimes it's not. But then assuming the interview goes well, you would receive an offer and we would move from there. Again, the actual hours at the job site will vary from program to program. It can range anywhere from 20 to 40. I would say it's probably closer to 30 to 40, but there are some programs where it's more like 25. And what you'll do there is really going to depend on the field that you end up doing and the particular placement that you have. But, it really could be anything from like if you're doing a marketing, you might help out with a website or SEO research, or you might do social media. If you are in psychology, you might be coordinating appointments or helping with debriefs after appointments and things like that. So there's really a wide range of things that you could be doing, and it's really going to depend specifically on the career field that your placement is in. So the seminar, it is required for all CGIS students. You cannot opt out, so that's important to note. You can earn, that is a typo, you can earn either 3 or 6 credits. 4 is not an option. And the idea behind the seminar is to sort of take the knowledge that you're learning at your internship site and put it into both a work context so that when you come back to the States and you ultimately apply for a job, you sort of understand how you could put the things into context that you've learned in this new work environment, but also into a cross-cultural context. So, in certain countries, being on time is actually being late. Like if you get there at 9 o'clock, you're actually 5 minutes late. And in other countries, if you get there at 9 o'clock, you might be 30 minutes early. The day might not actually start till 9:30, even though they told you 9. So it helps you sort of put some of these cultural phenomenons into a greater context. Grading really varies, again, depending on the provider you end up choosing, but it tends to be like journal entries, reflection topics, and then often an evaluation either or both by yourself as well as your supervisor. So these are for a letter grade, although you can take them pass fail if you choose to. And we would encourage you to talk to your academic and or your major advisor about how to incorporate this course into your overall degree progression. So housing, again, Amprakash being the outlier here, housing is included in the program fee. Amprakash, it is not included in the program fee, and you will see that reflected in the cost differential. But Amprakash does provide assistance in terms of finding housing and setting that up. But for the remaining three, housing is included. The type of housing is going to vary again, depending on the location. I would say it's typically an apartment or like a residence hall center type location. However, there are some locations, particularly those in Asia, that rely on hotels or hostels just simply because of the local population. But this housing is all pre-vetted ahead of time, carefully selected, and there is also an on-site staff members to assist, if anything comes up, if you need to move locations, things like that. It's important to note that, as with all CGIS programs, students must live in the program provided housing. You cannot opt out and do independent housing. So how to apply? As I've mentioned before, there are two separate applications that you have to complete. So you'll start in mCompass, and there's an example there. You click on the Apply Now button and get started. Our application is pretty simple. It shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes to do. And then there is also a application through the partner or the provider. There are links available within the application to help you find how to do that. But we encourage you to apply early to have the most internship placements available. And again, the application deadline is February 1st with an extended deadline for SageCore to March 1st. So sort of the timeline, it's great that you're thinking about this now. It's only December and you're already having thoughts about next summer. So that's great. So right now we really encourage you to sort of research and choose, narrow down the options to one internship provider. And you can meet with an advisor if you have questions about that. Each of the internship providers has its own designated CGIS advisor, so they'd be happy to meet with you and talk more through it. Once you have decided, you should complete your application both in mCompass and through the provider. And then we will review the applications after the February 1st deadline. A lot of students ask if you can apply to more than one internship program. You can, however, we don't encourage you to do so because all of the CGIS internship programs are considered non-competitive. And what that means is that if you meet the eligibility requirements, there's a high likelihood that you will ultimately be accepted into the program. And so there's really no point in applying to more than one because we're really going to review the first internship application that you submit, and in all likelihood, you will be accepted. So we won't even get to the second one. So we strongly encourage you to narrow it down to one internship provider and apply to that. So there are some additional requirements that you need to do in order to apply. But again, our application is pretty simple. There's a short questionnaire. You need a copy of your passport. You'll need to tell us which location you're thinking about and how many credits. And then there's just some other things to read and move through. The provider or the partner will also have some additional requirements. Sometimes it involves, as Ben mentioned, an introductory interview, might ask you to upload a resume or a CV, might be an advisor approval form. So these are going to vary, but those are some of the things that you might need to also plan on supplying. In terms of how much they cost, each of the internship brochure pages has a tab that says finances, circled there. We are working on getting the budget sheets for the 2026 cycle up. Some of them may already be up, but for those that are not, you can see the costs from last year for 2025. So for example, on the right, you'll see the Copenhagen CIE budget sheet from last year. And, the prices may vary slightly, but it'll give you a pretty good idea of how much it's going to cost again for 2026. So financial aid scholarships, if you receive financial aid during the academic year here on campus, you can also use your financial aid to participate in the internship programs. The key caveat there is that you must take the 6-credit seminar in order to use your financial aid. If you aren't on financial aid or you just don't want to use your financial aid abroad, that's fine. You're welcome to take the 3-credit. But, excuse me, in order to use financial aid, you must do the 6-credit. There is also the LSA International Internship Scholarship, and this is available solely for students who are going on a CGIS internship program. And so this can help offset like additional costs like your flight or the program fee or even just daily food and clothing and things like that. So if that's something that interests you, we encourage you to meet with the LSA Scholarships advisor. And then there's a couple of other links on additional scholarships that might be available, as well as just budgeting tips and things of that nature. So there are a number of info sessions coming up. As Ben mentioned, there is one tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Amprakash. In fact, all of them have an info session tomorrow. There is also one for SageCore at noon, CIE at 1, and IES at 3. We'll then take a break for the holidays, and in January we will have another set of these info sessions before our deadline in February 1st. So like I said, I'll send out these slides as soon as we're done here, and you will have access to these links. I encourage you to set up a advising appointment with a CGIS advisor if you have questions specifically about the individual internship programs. And so there's a little video here on how to do that. And as I mentioned, each of the internship programs has their own dedicated advisor that can give you some more in-depth info and knowledge. And so, what's next is sort of starting your application, making an appointment. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions that Ben or I can answer? And you're welcome to either say it out loud or put it in the chat, or you, of course, can email us afterwards as well. Okay, well, if no one has any question, actually, I take that back. There are some in the chat. Yes, the slides will be sent to you as soon as we're done here. In terms of is one program more affordable than the others? I would say yes. Amprakash is definitely the most affordable of all of the locations. And I think that's specifically because of their focus on grassroots organization and social justice. They also tend to operate in non-traditional locations, which helps keeps the cost down a little bit. So Amprakash is definitely the most affordable. Amongst the other three, it really is going to vary, but I would say location matters more for the other three than the provider. Australia is just almost always going to be the most expensive, whereas some of the more non-traditional locations like Cape Town or even Buenos Aires might be a little bit, the program fee might be a little bit less due to just the cost of housing and the cost of food in these locations. So yeah, get started with Amprakash if that's something that's interesting, and then you can move on from there. Any other questions? All right, well, I will send these slides to you. If you do have any questions, please feel free to send Ben or I an email. And yeah, we look forward to seeing your applications. Have a good rest of your day.